To the ones who can feel the air changing, to the ones who know when silence gets too loud, to the ones who've watched fake smiles hide real fear, this is for you. You ever notice how people get strange when your energy starts shifting? Not when you are down, not when you are confused, not when you are still trying to explain yourself to everybody in the room. No. They get strange when something in you clicks, when your eyes stop asking for permission, when your voice gets calmer, when your presence starts saying more than your mouth ever could. That is when the whispers begin, and that is why every zodiac sign is whispering about you right now. Not because you are loud, not because you are desperate for attention, not because you begged the world to see you. They are whispering because they can feel something coming off you that they cannot label, cannot predict, cannot control. They feel a storm building in somebody who used to apologize for taking up space. They feel pressure in somebody who used to shrink themselves just to keep the peace. They feel danger in somebody who finally stopped explaining why they deserve to exist. That is what scares people, not your pain. People can handle your pain. They can study it. They can gossip about it. They can even enjoy it when it makes you easier to manage. But your transformation, your shift, your refusal to stay broken in a way that benefits them, that makes them nervous. Because the moment you stop bleeding for the entertainment of people who never planned to save you, the whole atmosphere changes. You know what is funny? Most of them were comfortable when they thought your story was already finished. They had you figured out. They had your whole identity trapped in an old version of you. The soft one, the hurt one, the one who kept doubting every instinct, the one who answered right away, the one who tolerated disrespect because you were afraid of losing people who never really valued you in the first place. That version of you made them feel safe. This version makes them check your page twice, makes them reread your silence, makes them wonder who you have become when nobody was looking. Because now you move different. You don't chase the conversation. You don't force the connection. You don't tap dance for approval. You don't beg people to understand the parts of you they were never deep enough to hold anyway. And they can feel it. Aries can feel that fire in you and knows this is not impulse anymore. This is precision. Taurus can feel you getting grounded in a way that cannot be manipulated. Gemini can feel your mind is sharper now, and you are no longer confused by mixed signals. Cancer can feel your emotional depth turning into strength instead of weakness. Leo can feel your presence growing louder without you even speaking. Virgo can feel you getting disciplined, and that terrifies everybody who benefited from your chaos. Libra can feel the balance returning, and now your peace is no longer up for negotiation. Scorpio can feel the death of your old self and the birth of something colder, cleaner, and more dangerous. Sagittarius can feel your hunger for more, that restless pull toward a bigger life. Capricorn can feel your ambition hardening into action. Aquarius can feel your detachment becoming power. Pisces can feel that your intuition is no longer a soft whisper. It is a warning siren now. Every sign can feel it in their own language. That is why they whisper. Because when people cannot control the energy, they start making theories about it. They say, you changed. And they are right. They say you are harder to read. Good. They say your vibe is intense now. Good. They say you have been distant. Maybe. Or maybe you finally realized that being constantly available to people who bring nothing but confusion is not kindness. It is self-abandonment dressed up as loyalty. You spend too much time making yourself easy to digest, too much time trying to look harmless, too much time trying to sound less serious than you were, too much time smiling through disrespect because you didn't want to seem dramatic, too much time carrying your pain in private while people played in your face in public. But pain does something when it sits with the right soul long enough. It stops being pain. It becomes vision. It becomes standards. It becomes boundaries that don't shake just because somebody gets uncomfortable. It becomes that look in your eyes that says, I have already survived things you could not even imagine. So what exactly do you think your opinion is going to do to me now? That is the energy around you. That is what they feel coming. Not revenge in the cheap way. Not noise. Not pointless flexing. Something deeper. Consequences. A return. A rise. A shift so real that people who overlooked you are suddenly acting like they always knew you were different. No, they didn't know. They sensed it. They ignored it. Then they got too comfortable. Then you went quiet. Then you went inward. Then life pressed on you so hard that it either had to break you or build something in you that this world was not ready for. And look at you now, still here, still breathing, still carrying scars without letting them turn you into a beggar for sympathy, still walking around with a heart that has been through hell and somehow came back with sharper instincts instead of bitterness. That is not normal. That is not average. That is not something people know how to deal with. Because most people only understand power when it looks obvious. Money, status, followers, a title, a crowd clapping. They think that is what power is. But real power is when your name enters a room before your body does. Real power is when people start second-guessing what they said about you. Real power is when your silence becomes heavier than their opinions. Real power is when you no longer need the audience to know exactly what season you are in, because the results will introduce themselves when the time is right. And that is where you are heading. You are entering that season where everything fake starts falling off. The fake love, the fake support, the fake concern, the fake I'm happy for you energy with jealousy hiding behind the teeth. You can feel it, can't you? The weird replies, the dry energy, the sudden distance from people who used to love having access to you when you were easier to influence, the awkwardness when you speak with certainty now, the tension when you stop laughing at disrespect, the subtle panic when people realize you are no longer available for the same tired games. That is not your imagination. That is the reaction people have when they can feel you stepping out of the script they wrote for you. And let's talk about that script. They wrote one for you a long time ago. Stay nice, stay reachable, stay insecure, stay doubting yourself, stay available, stay soft in ways that make you easy to use, stay grateful for crumbs, stay scared of being misunderstood, stay scared of being alone, stay scared of becoming too much. And you almost lived there. You almost made a home inside your own underestimation. You almost let people convince you that your instincts were overreactions, that your intensity was a flaw, that your need for depth was unrealistic, that your standards were too high, that your vision was too big, that your silence meant weakness, that your kindness meant obligation. But somewhere in the middle of all that disappointment, betrayal, and late-night overthinking, something started changing. You got tired in a different way. Not sleepy tired, soul tired. The kind of tired that makes you sit there and realize you cannot keep betraying yourself just to keep other people comfortable. The kind of tired that makes you see the pattern. You give, they take, you explain, they misunderstand on purpose, you forgive, they repeat, you stay loyal, they stay careless, and one day the switch flips, not with a speech, not with a dramatic exit, not with some big public moment, just a quiet inner decision. Enough. Enough shrinking, enough repeating, enough begging for clarity from people who enjoy confusing you, enough trying to heal in the same rooms that taught you to hate yourself, enough performing peace while your spirit is at war. That quiet enough changes your whole frequency. That is when the Zodiac whispers start. Because everybody can feel when a person has stopped negotiating with their own worth. That kind of energy is impossible to fake. It shows up in your walk, in your timing, in what you no longer respond to, in what you no longer tolerate, in what you no longer explain. It shows up when you stop reacting instantly, when you stop proving yourself, when you stop defending your boundaries to people committed to misunderstanding them. And suddenly the same people who used to overlook you start watching you like a forecast. Because they can feel pressure building. They can feel a win coming, a glow up coming, a level up coming, a separation coming, a disappearance from places that never deserved your presence coming. A version of you so self-possessed that people who used to play with your name won't even know how to approach you anymore. You know why this matters? Because people thought your sensitivity was your weakness. They thought the fact that you feel deeply meant you would always be easy to wound. But deep feelers become terrifying when they finally understand themselves. Because now you are not just feeling pain. You are reading rooms, reading motives, reading patterns, reading the tiny changes in tone, timing, behavior, and energy that tell you everything words try to hide. And once someone like you learns to trust that gift, game over. Now you are no longer walking into traps with your eyes closed. Now you are no longer mistaking attention for love. Now you are no longer calling survival a personality. Now you are no longer handing your softness to people whose hands were never clean. You are becoming selective. That word scares people more than anger ever could. Selective with your time. Selective with your energy. Selective with your empathy. Selective with your vulnerability. Selective with your access, because access to you is not supposed to be cheap. Read that again in your spirit. Access to you is not supposed to be cheap. Not after everything life had to drag you through to build this discernment. Not after every lesson that cost you sleep. Not after every betrayal that forced you to grow up faster than you should have had to. Not after every moment you had to stitch yourself back together in silence while pretending you were fine, so the world would stop asking questions it never really cared about. No, you did not survive all that just to keep handing yourself to people who arrive empty and leave full. This next season of your life has to look different. It has to feel different. And the people around you know it before you even announce it. That is why they whisper. That is why they watch. That is why they throw those weird little tests your way to see if the old version of you is still available. A late message, a half apology, a breadcrumb, a random comeback, a fake check-in, a subtle insult disguised as a joke. A little reach for your attention just to see if they still have the same access. And what happens now? Nothing. Because you see it. You see the bait. You see the cycle. You see the setup, and seeing it means you are no longer owned by it. That is power, not just being strong enough to fight, being healed enough to not enter every battle that was designed to distract you from your destiny. That right there will change your whole life. You do not need to clap back at every fool. You do not need to expose every fake person. You do not need to prove every rumor wrong. You do not need to defend your soul to people who would not recognize truth if it stood in front of them with its hand out. Sometimes the most violent thing you can do to a disrespectful pattern is starve it. No reaction, no access, no explanation, no more energy. Let them sit with the silence they helped create. Let them wonder. Because while they are whispering, you should be building your mind, building your routine, building your body, building your discipline, building your income, building your confidence, building a life so aligned that the people who once saw you as an option start realizing they were standing in front of a force and mistook it for fragility. That happens all the time. People mistake gentleness for weakness, stillness for passivity, patience for lack of options, kindness for low standards, until one day they wake up and realize the person they underestimated has become completely unreachable in all the ways that matter. And that is the part they never prepare for. They never prepare for your detachment. They never prepare for your self-respect. They never prepare for the day you stop needing closure from people who brought confusion instead of clarity. You know how dangerous it is when you stop needing what used to control you, when validation stops controlling you, when attention stops controlling you, when fear of abandonment stops controlling you, when guilt stops controlling you, when loneliness stops controlling you. That is when you become unmanageable to the wrong people. And that is exactly why they can feel something coming. They can feel that your habits are changing. Maybe you are waking up earlier. Maybe you are praying harder. Maybe you are moving in silence. Maybe you are reading more. Maybe you are posting less and planning more. Maybe you are finally putting your energy into your own future instead of spending it all managing everybody else's moods. Whatever it is, they feel the shift. Because energy moves before evidence arrives. People can sense when somebody is about to outgrow them. Before the new job, before the new money, before the new level, before the relocation, before the breakthrough, before the room finally says yes to the version of you that had to be built in private. They feel it first. And weak people always get weird when they feel someone near them becoming undeniable. So let them whisper. Let them ask questions they are not entitled to answers for. Let them compare notes. Let them study your signs, your mood, your silence, your glow, your absence, your timing. None of that will stop what is for you. Do you understand? None of it. Not the gossip, not the envy, not the weird energy, not the side eyes, not the fake support, not the people secretly hoping you stay stuck so they can feel bigger in comparison. None of that is stronger than a person who has finally decided to stand with themselves. That is the real turning point. Not when the world chooses you, when you choose you, when you stop abandoning yourself to keep peace with people who were never at war with your flaws. They were at war with your potential, because potential is offensive to people who settled. Your ambition bothers people who quit on themselves. Your healing bothers people who turn their pain into an identity. Your discipline bothers people who romanticize procrastination. Your boundaries bother people whose whole personality depends on access to others. Your comeback bothers people who needed your story to end in failure so they could feel justified in how they treated you. So yes, they are whispering. Let them. You have bigger things to do than manage the emotional weather of people committed to misunderstanding your season. Your job now is to protect the signal. Protect the part of you that knows. The part of you that can feel it too. The part of you that senses this is not the chapter where you break down and disappear. This is the chapter where everything that tried to bury you becomes soil. This is the chapter where rejection teaches direction, where betrayal sharpens discernment, where isolation becomes training, where heartbreak becomes clarity, where disappointment becomes fuel, where silence becomes strategy. This is the chapter where you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this building in me?" Because that question changes everything. It turns pain into preparation. It turns delay into discipline. It turns loss into space. It turns endings into room for better alignments to enter. And once you start seeing life like that, fear begins to lose its grip. Because now even your worst seasons become raw material. Now even the nights that almost crushed you become part of your edge. Now even the tears become evidence that you cared enough to hurt and healed enough to keep moving anyway. That is another thing they do not understand about you. You kept going. Not perfectly, not beautifully, not in some polished cinematic way. You kept going ugly, tired, confused, mad, disappointed, with doubts in your chest and pressure in your head and a million reasons to shut down. But you kept going, and people who have never had to rebuild themselves from the inside out will never understand how terrifying that makes you. Because a person who can keep moving while carrying invisible weight, a person who can suffer without turning cruel, a person who can be underestimated and still not lose their vision, a person who can be alone and not betray their purpose just to fit in. That person is a problem for this world. A beautiful problem, a necessary problem, a problem for every fake structure that expected you to remain small. So keep your mouth light and your focus heavy. You do not need to announce your next move. You do not need to explain your new boundaries. You do not need to give people a map to the version of you they did not help build. Move with intention. Move with prayer. Move with strategy. Move with that quiet confidence that comes from finally realizing you are not behind. You are being prepared. And when the whispers get louder, smile inside. Because that usually means the shift is real. That usually means the energy is working. That usually means your detachment is being noticed. That usually means your standards are finally doing what they were supposed to do. Filtering the room. Not everybody can come with you. Some people were only assigned to reveal your wounds. Some were only there to test your discernment. Some were only there to show you what happens when you keep giving chances to people who have not earned access. Some were only there to teach you the cost of ignoring your intuition.